right? That's the way it works. A little change in format this year for Q&A. There's cards on the table, so if you have questions, write out the questions, and we'll have Cheryl collect them. So if you have it, just raise your hand with the card. She'll collect them and pass them up to me periodically, so we can get to as many topics as we can. We have so many great topics and so many great folks here to discuss them in many different ways. What I want to do, first of all, is give everybody a little bit, a 2-minute chance to address this point, right? And that is, what are your goals as an official this year? What are your goals, personal goals, to help further develop the business community in New York? You know, what is it that you hope to accomplish? What is it that you hope to achieve this year to help further the business environment? So I'll start to my left, my very good friend, Senator Tom Silmy. Tom, 2 minutes, and Tom Croce, I'm sorry. That was almost Senator Silmy. Sorry, Tom. Sorry.
It's okay. He wins by like 80-something% in his district, so that's fine. Happy to be associated with my good friend. Thanks, Joe. Thank you to the board for having us, and I like the Merv Griffin kind of setup. This is nice. I'm old enough to remember that. I would like to focus on the health of the corporation this year. You know, the state is also a corporation, and the governor, like a president, has many roles, and one of those roles is a chief executive officer. And this year, the corporate indexes are not very good for our state. So we have to focus on the health of our corporation, because everything else flows from how healthy and prosperous New York is as an entity and as an enterprise. Otherwise, it's very difficult to attract the kind of talent that we want in this state, be it individuals who will be employed by many of you in this room, or the companies that we want to keep here and attract to come to New York. So we need to have an environment, a corporate environment that is attractive and healthy, and a regulatory environment that doesn't scare the heck out of people and drive them to warmer weather in states where the regulatory environment is so much more business friendly. So that's my focus this year in a big way. It's been our focus in the majority for a while, but I think this year, if we don't get it right, I didn't go up there to manage the further decay of the state, and I feel like if we don't get it right this year, if we're not focusing on what's important for the corporation of New York, the Empire State, we're going to be in deep trouble. That's my focus this year.
Great, thanks. So next, Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick. Mike, we have a very good friend to the HIA-LI over the years. So why don't you give us 2 minutes on what your goal is for the year?
Sure, thank you, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. I just want to begin by taking issue with your diversity observation. I'm a Republican in the New York State Assembly. That should count for something.
Touche, my friend.
Anyway, my goals this year are to continue to advocate for the issues that I've spoken to you about before. We need to bring down the cost of living, the cost of government here in New York State, and especially here on Long Island. And I think we have a wonderful opportunity because of the federal tax bill, and quite frankly, because of an upcoming Supreme Court decision that is going to, I think, change the landscape in New York and the other high tax states. So we have, while some in this room may not like the federal tax bill because they may end up with a slightly higher tax bill due to the lack of deductibility over $10,000 in property taxes, we have been complaining about high taxes for many, many years, yet nothing is ever done about it. This will force that conversation and will force change. It is long overdue, and we are going to be confronting a reality that we have been avoiding for many, many years, and I look forward to that debate.
Great, thanks, Mike. Deputy County Executive John Kamen, your thoughts?
Thank you, and good morning. So I'm John Kamen, Deputy County Executive for Steve Ballone, and he apologizes that he cannot be here today. I'm a former town supervisor, and I'm a former judge. I've worked in government for some time, and I do appreciate the challenges that we face in government and community and business. I think the goal for the Balone administration going forward is understanding and moving forward and making Long Island and certainly Suffolk County as livable as it can be, making sure that we're investing properly in our communities and our businesses. We've invested in Suffolk County through the IDA $80 million in sewers. We've invested in jobs where this particular this industrial park has 250,000 new jobs between this and other companies, I should say. $700 million in new investment in facilities, half of that through this industrial park. The goal is for the county to be a partner. And when we're talking about being a partner, we're trying to do it in a way that just doesn't invest in business and support our local communities, but works with each other. Democrat and Republican, not a lot of Democrats up here today, but we do have to work together. The federal tax bill is we believe, in our administration, a travesty. We think that is going to impact us negatively in so many different ways. And we need to stand together. Our entire congressional delegation stood against that legislation. And so we are coming together and looking for partners. We're looking for partners in how we address federal legislation that impacts us in a negative way. We are looking to our state, to the governor who's coming here and committed to this region and working with our county executive in so many ways. We are looking to share services. One of the great priorities of the Balone administration this year and going forward is how do we work together with our legislators from both sides of the aisle, many of whom are here, with our towns, with our villages, with our districts, with our schools. We could look around and point to the schools and the 70 cents on a dollar and in our taxes. We could look to how much we're spending, and it's a problem, and we need to make sure that we're focused on how to be efficient, but we need to have people gain confidence in who we are, all of us, when we govern, whatever level of government we are. So we're going to work together through shared services, and that's one of the priorities. We have a shared service plan through Suffolk Share. The governor had an initiative. Suffolk County has come up with something called Suffolk Share. We're considered one of the premier plans in the state. We're going to be working cooperatively with our towns and villages. We believe we can save tens of millions of dollars a year simply by working together. And if we can save taxpayer dollars, save money that you put into our government coffers, you can reinvest that in your own businesses, in your own communities, in your own families. And if we do that together, we'll all benefit and we'll all have a better quality of life, and we'll all have greater success. So that's our goal for 2018 and beyond. So thank you.
Great. And next we have the founder of the HIA-LI, and Jack founded it by using the business voice to help guide legislation here in the state to benefit Long Island and the industrial park. And he's been a strong advocate for at least 40 years that, and to follow up on you, John, that public-private partnerships are critical, right? So Jack, what do you hope the goals will be, this year for our electeds?
Well, we've heard all about the accomplishments of the HIA. We have a new sewer system coming down. We have business-friendly, business-fair legislation emanating from the towns, the state, and the federal government. That was accomplished by one methodology alone. That was sitting down and working with our representatives. So when we thanked all the board members and all the people that were involved in accomplishing that, we left out one group. As chairman of the Governance Relationship Committee, we should thank the people that are up here, because we've worked with all of them. We've worked with the town of Smithtown, we've worked with the county, we've worked with our state legislators to accomplish goals that if we didn't have the cooperation and the sympathetic ear of the people sitting up here and working with us, we wouldn't have accomplished any of that. We wouldn't have gotten an entrance from New Highway, we would not have gotten improved infrastructure, and that's why, as we start, we should thank the people we've worked with up on the dais.
It's great, and I agreed wholeheartedly with that. Tom, from a legislator's perspective, what are your goals? What are your hopes for 2018?
Well, my name is Tom Croce, and
Tom's much better looking than you.
it's our
so.
boyish good looks, receding hairline, Italian last name. It's great to be here with everybody today, esteemed colleagues and friends here up on the stage, and so many of you in the audience. And thanks for your support of this wonderful organization that does so much, not only for the business community in the Hauppauge area, but for our economy in the region. I read a report yesterday that indicated a daunting statistic. And the report predicted that, and it's based on a survey, that 71% of young adults plan to leave Long Island in the next 5 years. Let that sit in for a second. What does that mean to your businesses? What does that mean to our economy here on Long Island? What does it mean to our communities, our families? 71%. So if you had to ask me what my objectives are in the next year, they would be to find ways to stem that tide, that tidal wave of young people that are leaving Long Island. And we could talk about different ways to do that. The point of the report was to highlight the need for affordable housing. And sometimes there's a disconnect between, the real definition of affordable housing. Certainly, we understand the word affordable, but I think too often we look at affordable housing and we think of government subsidized housing, at least in government. That's often the thought process. When the reality of it is that the reason much of our housing is unaffordable is because our taxes are unaffordable. So my objectives include bringing greater transparency to our tax and regulatory and fee structure here in Suffolk County, being more inclusive with the business community. I think all too often we regulate here in Suffolk County without the full support or full input from our business community. And I've always said that the best way for government to create jobs is to stop preventing them. We need to work with our business community to find ways to make Suffolk County government more efficient, to make permit processes more efficient, to make it easier for all of you to do business. Because the hunger that Paul Pachter spoke about when we began here today, government can help deal with that hunger. But there's nothing that deals with hunger better than creating jobs. And all of you do a much better job of creating jobs than those of us on the stage.
That's great, thanks.
Thank you.
And our newest good friend at the HIA-LI, the newly elected and sworn in town supervisor in an election that was as riveting as Bush v. Gore. Here you are, and we welcome you. We'd love to hear what your goals are for year one in your tenure.
Well, thank you, Joe, and thanks to the HIA-LI. I'm very pleased to be here with my colleagues, and my main goal is to recuperate from that riveting election. So it's been 16 or 18 days, but we're making it work. Our goals in Smithtown are, number one, we're going to get far more aggressive than we ever have been before in bringing businesses into our town. And as Tom said, we're going to work on streamlining the processes that take place to bring our businesses in here so that they can smartly develop and get their businesses up and running. We have a great start already, which I could elaborate on as we go further into the conversation. I can explain what has gone on in the last 15 days. But I think bringing those businesses into town, revitalizing our business districts, which we intend to do, and we are on our way in doing that as well. That's going to bode well for Smithtown. We coined a phrase in the election that this will be a new beginning in Smithtown, and I believe it will be, with the town board and myself and all of our departments working together. I'm very excited about a very prosperous and successful 2018.
That's great, and we welcome you at the HIA-LI and the new partnership that we'll have with the town of Smithtown with your leadership. So great words came out of this, right? Accountability, partnership, investment, all the great things. But the one word that I think the business community, at least from my perspective, is focused on for a little bit is confidence, right? So how much confidence can we have in you folks and your colleagues? We're looking at such a weird time on Long Island and New York in general with with the Senate Majority Leader convicted and going to be retried, an Assembly Leader, a County Executive under indictment, a District Attorney under indictment, Chief of Police in jail, right? And this has all happened on all of our watches. All of our watches. This is all happened. So what pledge to the business folks here today can you make? And I'll open it up to the floor and whoever wants to answer this. What pledge can you make today that we can have confidence that on your watch those things aren't going to happen this year? We're going to have a level of ethics and integrity and accountability at all levels of government, so we as business folks can have confidence that you're doing your jobs.
Let me add a codicil to that, if I may. We talked about the expense of housing. Part of those statistics that came out that were in Newsday the other day is 4 out of 10 millennials live with their families, whether they're married, whether they have children, et cetera, et cetera. Why does housing cost so much? Well, I was at a great meeting in Long Island Builders Institute the other day, and I got the chance to meet the supervisor of the town of Oyster Bay. Very nice guy. And I'm listening to how he's going to revitalize Oyster Bay, and I think he really wants to. And then I asked him a simple question. If he's so interested in revitalizing Oyster Bay, why does Oyster Bay have a law that they passed without any discussion with the business community that requires that all construction, housing or otherwise, that's sponsored by the IDA has to have a union apprenticeship program, which the courts, by the way, just issued a TRO for. What makes living on Long Island so expensive, and I'll ask that of Tom and Ed, is some of the resolutions, the cost of approvals, the rules and regulations that don't need to be in effect, scaffolding laws. We want to build safely, we want to build economically, but we want to build correctly. And everybody will tell you that sometimes it takes longer to get an approval than it takes to build the facility or the house or the building. So if we really want to make Long Island affordable for the millennials and not become a dying grape on the grapevine, we need to address that. So the next time there is legislation at the state legislature, legislations in the towns, legislation at the county, I have this great new idea. We should sit down like we've done in the past and talk to the business community. I'm still waiting for, even though we have a lot of good interrelationship off the record, I'm still waiting for our political representatives to come down to the HIA, Long Island Business Institute, and publicly poll us as to how this legislation, what will be the economic impact of these legislation.
That's a great point, and that requires confidence, right? So ethically, Tom, maybe we can start with you. How can we depend on our government to not let us down?
So, all tempered by our experiences in life, counterinsurgency warfare guy. The main way you establish confidence and maintain leadership in a place anywhere in the world is security of the people and the legitimacy of the government. If you don't have those two things, they collapse. So people's faith in their elected representatives and the people who are serving in government it has to be paramount. Getting up to Albany, my first year, all the different trials that happened, all the indictments, not exactly what I thought I was going to encounter in my first year in elected office at the state level. But a young assemblyman, I guess we're contemporaries, and I got together and pushed for a constitutional amendment in this state to strip public pensions from individuals who've been convicted of violating the public trust. We had to get it through the Senate and the Assembly. Yeah. We got it through the Senate and the Assembly for 2 consecutive cycles, which took years off our life, believe me. And you all got to vote on it in a public referendum on the ballot this November. It passed overwhelmingly by 67% statewide. That's one way of sending a shot across the bow and telling people that business as usual is over. If you grew up in a culture where it was okay to do certain things, that paradigm is done, and here's the new paradigm. We've toughened our ethics laws in the Senate. When I was the committee of the chair, we did that. We toughened our disclosures. Those are all good steps, but here's the main ingredient. You have to send good people to public office, and we really have to vet who we're sending to public office. That's a key factor. And then I'll just dovetail on what Jack was saying about speeding up the process in townships. Whether it's ethics reform or whether it's simply moving a piece of paper from one place to the other, the chief executive has to continue to put downward pressure on the bureaucracy to make all of that happen. The key element here is leadership. If you have the right leadership, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's a great point. So John and Tom, at the county level, Michael, I'll get right back to you. At the county level, right? So we're faced now where our police commissioner is now the district attorney. We need a new police commissioner. There's a lot. How are we addressing to make sure that corruption does not come back into the county level?
So I'll start. We did just elect Tim Sini as the district attorney. He was the police commissioner. I think that the way the world works in local government and probably business and probably anywhere where you have organization, it's really difficult to rock the boat, to challenge what exists. When people are doing things wrong, I don't think people generally wake up in the morning and try to say they're gonna do something terrible or awful or unethical. But there's when the structure doesn't exist where people are held accountable, where there's transparency, people lose their way. And so in this county, there's been a great effort to weed out what's wrong, and that results in this horrible situation where a district attorney is indicted, where a police chief is in jail. But that was now already in the past. And now as we go forward into 2018, we really do have a new approach. We have a new DA. We have a county executive in Steve Ballone, who's committed by pushing forward with Tim Sini, by moving forward on a police commissioner search. I myself am involved in that search with the other deputy county executives. We're trying to create an environment where the structure of government can give people confidence that they can see what we're doing, they can hold us accountable, they can see the numbers, they can see the data. That's the trend, performance measurement, data analytics. The legislature is talking about it, the county executive is talking about it, other governments are doing it, creating an ability for people in business, people in the community, leaders, to see what we're all doing and hold us accountable and catch the problems as they come up so that we don't devolve into this morass. I would like to share one other point about Jack's comment. You know, all of us, or all of you, I suppose, are business people and you're here, but you also are residents. You live in Suffolk County, or most of you do, you live on Long Island. And part of government's responsibility is to hold people accountable and to keep all of us from excess. We have to keep those of us in government from excess, and we do that by the structure, just like I was talking about, and we have to keep people who are in business, who are looking to make those dollars and invest them in the community, and we do that by putting on limitations so that you can't use your business to exploit someone else. We have to make sure that people who are the construction workers are making a wage that's reasonable, so we're not taking advantage of them. And so there are ways to have that dialogue to make sure that we are considering the costs of construction and the time it takes to permitting. But every resident in this county and this island wants to make sure that we are not just lowering the gate so that anything can be built at any time because it makes sense to any one of us for the moment. And so part of the challenge is to have that partnership, have that discussion, and have that dialogue so that business can invest and grow and succeed, not at the expense of the communities, so that we can all be part of the solution. And so it's not such an easy thing to come up to resolve, but the dialogue is the important thing.
Yes. So hang on, Tom. Are you so you're in the legislature? Are you comfortable from a legislative perspective that in light of everything that's gone on, the legislature is now empowered to have the checks and balances on the executive and on the other areas that it needs to have, so we can have that confidence?
No.
Okay, so what do we need to do better then?
Well, I think we as a legislature need to do a better job of creating transparency in the county. And the media certainly will play a role in that. From an ethics point of view, we have a fairly robust code of ethics in Suffolk County, and a very active ethics commission that does a great job at setting a standard and ensuring that we keep to that standard. But we need to do more. My friend Rob Trotta, who's in the room, sponsored a piece of legislation last year that would have prohibited elected officials in Suffolk County from accepting campaign contributions from corporations or unions that have business before the county. And I think when you look at the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are funneling through campaign accounts from folks that have skin in the game before the legislature, before the county, in the administration, I think people sort of shake their heads and say, well, it's obvious that this is where this went because that's where the campaign money went and whatnot. So as the leader of the Republican caucus this year, I plan to fight for legislation like Legislator Trotta's to at least eliminate the perception that there's pay for play in Suffolk County.
Great. Mike, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
As a Republican in the state assembly, I'm a counterinsurgency and warfare guy too. So but I would just, Jack brings up the scaffold law. We're the only state out of 50 that has a scaffold law. It needs to be changed or eliminated. However, it is a key issue for the trial lawyers, which is a very powerful lobby in Albany, and the insurance industry that profits greatly from underwriting this line of business. So it takes leadership, say from the governor, from the legislative leaders, to say, look, this needs to change. And I'm hearing whispers that change may be on the way with regard to scaffolding. But the reality is, if to build confidence, yeah, more transparency and all of this, but better officials, better vetting, et cetera. But Albany is full of competing interests, and everybody wants their piece of the pie. Some want a greater share of the pie. Some, like Paul's organizations and the disability community, they're just looking for crumbs and to maintain the crumbs they have. And can we get a couple of cents more? But I think if you want to improve the quality of government, it's not just the quality of people. To me, it's all about the compensation package. It's how we're compensated. I've long advocated, and I believe more strongly than ever, that it's not just taking away pensions from those convicted of felonies in the performance of their duties. Elected officials, from the governor down to the town council, should not be in a defined benefit pension system to begin with. Other states have transitioned their newly electeds to a defined contribution platform because the system, a defined benefit system, rewards longevity. So you are incentivized to stay as long as possible. And if you cross New York State United Teachers or the PBA or the alphabet soup of unions that are up there, they will come after you. Believe me, I know. So it takes, because if you lose an election, you're out of the pension system. Now, human nature says I'm not going to do anything that's against my own financial best interest. So that is the key problem. The pension system, the defined benefit platform enjoyed by elected officials is the mustard seed that has caused all of these problems, that prevents us from moving forward to deal with these difficult issues. We are compensated in the wrong fashion. We need to be out of the defined benefit system. Give us a pay raise, compensate us fairly, but remove that obligation on the taxpayer for the pension, because you're now motivated to last 10 years to vest. If you're in 10, you want 20. If you're in 20, you want 30. And then you want your high 3, because your high 3 goes into the salary, all right? The unions know this game very, very well because they benefit from it. But so do we, and we shouldn't, because we should be on the side of taxpayers.
Yep, great. So